Name is Monica Kretschmer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network Women of Inspiration Awards. And this is the Women of Inspiration podcast, where we speak with women who lead, inspire, and motivate. So today we have a very special guest. She is a powerhouse at the intersection of innovation, marketing, and leadership. Avery Akkineni is the Chief Marketing Officer at VaynerX, where she leads a global brand strategy, content, events, and communications. Her career, simply put, is a masterclass in pioneer growth, from launching Vayner Media, APAC, and scaling it to 150 employees in just 2 years, to spearheading Vayner Media, LATAM, and you can tell me what that stands for, and founding Vayner 3, the company's emerging tech consultancy focused on AI and Web3. She is recognized as an ad age Web3 trailblazer and AI thought leader by Business Insider. She's also a trusted voice at the front lines of the digital disruption. She is not just a visionary marketer, she is also a board member for the Peace Players, using her platform to empower youth in conflicted zones through sport and leadership. In this episode, we're going to go beyond buzzwords. We're going to be talking about the power of a brand voice, talking about where the industry is heading, and how to stay human in this tech-driven world. Also, we're going to tip the scales on talking what it's like to work for media mogul and support her, Gary V. So get ready for an inspiring episode. Welcome, Avery.
Thank you so much for having me, Monica. It is so lovely to be here. A big fan of your podcast. So thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Well, let's get into it. You know, I've just given the audience just a brief recap of all you've done, and it's simply remarkable. I mean, you were into these spaces of technology now that's emerging and just blowing up. So let's start with your story and what inspired your career path, and how did it all begin, and bring us up to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Avery. I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee, went to university in California, where I first started to fall in love with combining technology and business objectives through marketing. Right out of school, I joined Google, which was just a dream come true. I think I watched the internship movie and with Vince Vaughn and decided I need to go there because they have free coffee and bananas and everything. And that was an incredible 7.5-year chapter where I got to work on many of the different advertising products that Google rolled out at the time, focused on mid-market and enterprise advertisers. And through that role at Google, I got to know the guys at Vayner Media and Gary, who came to give an inspiring keynote for us at Google. And I just felt that this was a rocket ship and a really cool opportunity to do something different in the world of marketing. So in 2018, I hopped over to Vayner Media, originally on the media team. And a year later, I had the opportunity to open our offices in what we call APAC, but basically the Asia Pacific region: Singapore, Bangkok, Tokyo, Sydney. And I just learned so much from that. I then launched Vayner 3, which was our innovation consultancy, a really cool, unique experience that I think was what a lot of advertisers were sort of seeking for trying something new in a post-pandemic world. So that was very successful. And I then started to help out on other parts of Vayner Media again. And Gary said, why don't you be the CMO and combine all the things that you've learned at your time at Vayner to help build our brand as an agency and as a modern communications company. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, that's a lot. And I can sort of, I always know this to be true, that there's always one defining moment in that journey that just nailed it for you, that said, I'm on the right path. I may not know what's coming around that corner, but I'm going for it. So what was that for you?
The very first day that I moved to Singapore, and keep in mind, we did not have any active clients there. We didn't really know anyone. And every person that I was speaking to in the advertising industry and the press was like telling me how hard and impossible it is to launch an American agency in Singapore. My very first day, we had a meeting with partner that we'd been introduced to through an American brand. And I was supposed to be there and they had said something like, oh, can you come on whatever it was, like May 11th? I was like, yeah, I'll be there. I literally landed that morning from New York and like showered, got ready, went to their office. I was supposed to be there for an hour and I was there the entire day. And it was just an immediate, like we immediately bonded, like we were on the same page. They were asking my perspective and inputs. And I just felt like, yeah, this is going to work. I know this is going to work. That was a P&G brand called SK2. Still one of our clients there today. And I'll always be grateful to them for being such incredible initial partners and giving an agency like VaynerMedia a chance in a market where we were really starting from zero.
That is incredible. So what are some of those biggest lessons that you learned through that process? For all the women that are listening right now and looking at your career path and your incredible journey, what are some of those things that you can think back in the moment that were very helpful?
In the moment, just pushing yourself to know that you're the one that you've been waiting for. A lot of times I speak to women at Vayner, other industry friends, other clients who are waiting for someone to give them an opportunity, waiting for that chance. It's like you have to make that chance happen yourself. Um, don't sit around and wait. You're the one that you've been waiting for to unlock these doors and open these new opportunities, because there is opportunity everywhere in so many different dimensions. So just that, and everyone is always nervous in those situations. It's not like anyone like goes in without having a little butterfly in your stomach. But knowing that if you don't ask, you don't get is a very important lesson to learn.
Absolutely. I am a firm believer you don't get what you don't ask for. And if the answer is no, it's not right now. And there's always another opportunity because we never know why they're saying no in the first place. So, my question for you is in your journey, and it's kind of, we don't do this alone. And so, in your journey, who have been those key support hers, as we call them, helping you on the journey, carving your career path?
Certainly Gary, of course. I couldn't, speak I lose mentors without Gary, who has been such an incredible supporter to me and so many others in my career. He's an amazing, I wouldn't call him a manager, but I would call him a leader because he's so busy and he has so many things going on. He doesn't have time to micromanage Avery's PTO, but he does set a high bar. He can dream up things that no one else thinks is possible and then make them happen. He can inspire greatness in so many different types of leaders. So certainly Gary has been a pivotal person in my career. I think back to many of the managers that I had when I was at Google, and I would refer to them more as managers because that's how Google is set up. It's a huge company and there's particular ways that they do things. And a lot of the sort of foundational growth and coaching that I received from many of these people, whether it was Jen King, I know you're in Canada. Jen King was my manager, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago. And she came with me on this business trip to Canada and like we, did all this really cool stuff together. And I'll never forget just how clear and actionable her feedback was coming out of that. And that's a gift that not many are able to give. So I appreciated the rigor and the framework that Google provided for managers to help grow their teams. And then some of our most important clients have been not only clients but friends, business partners, and truly helped me get to where I am today and Vayner get to where we are as a company. So I think back to some of our my most top partners who have just been we've just been in it together in such a way, and I've seen how they handle tough situations, how they navigate complex organizations, internal politics, all of that. And it can be such a masterclass for me because almost always I'll be significantly younger than them. So there's that, dynamic where I feel that I can really learn a lot from them. And it's flattering that they feel the same. They always tell me that they're learning things from me too. So just how closely we get to work with clients on the agency side is a fountain of knowledge.
Beautiful. And what about some of the females that you have, that are role models to you and that have inspired you on your journey? I'd love to hear about, some of the women, certainly in tech and marketing and media. It's an underrepresented industry for women.
It is. I'm gonna, harken back to a client who I see as such an inspirational figure, Shahar Scott. She is the VP of Reality Labs at Meta and has had this incredible career building marketing organizations within some of the world's biggest technology companies. We've had the pleasure of working together for years, and I love how she brings people along with her and always cultivates a team and an environment of positivity and possibility. And the business results certainly speak for themselves. So she's someone that I will certainly celebrate as an incredible, inspiring figure. I'm inspired by many people I don't know as well. Like I follow the Sarah Blakeleys of the world really closely, and the journey that she's on and that she's communicated is always something that's really interesting and inspiring to me. And right home at Vayner, I'm lucky to work alongside many incredible executives, from Claude Silver, who's our chief heart officer, to Kaylin McNamara, who is our chief business officer. We're all in the C-suite together, and have Wanda Pogue, our chief strategy officer, can really like work together collaboratively and help each other round out our strengths, play to everyone's strengths. So I feel really honored that I get to work with incredible women in my day-to-day work as well.
Beautiful. And I think, I want to share something, and this is my observation, and you reconfirmed it with me when we were in the green room and, in the background that I've known of you and before meeting you, is that there's a brand voice, I think, with so much intention that your company is really leading in the space of putting those executives out there to use their voice and speak authentically. And that is something that has typically been harder for executives to do. Gary's certainly a pioneer in this. You know exactly what he's feeling. He doesn't, sugarcoat absolutely anything. So, where did you come into that space with that same insight or that, how would you say, um, I don't know, motivation to use your brand voice, or how did that happen for you? Or was it just seeing leaders like Gary setting the example?
Yeah, Gary has a really clear perspective on the value of personal brand building, and what his career is a perfect illustration of that. You go from being a dude working at a wine store in New Jersey to being one of the most sought after international businessmen in the world, based on the power of personal brand. You'll believe it. And getting a front row seat to that, I see that as possible, not just for Gary, but for so many Fortune 500 companies. We actually developed a practice at VaynerMedia, which is called Executive Social, where we help CEOs, CMOs, COOs, C-suite individuals craft their, communication strategy on social platforms like LinkedIn, because that is where investor analysts are looking for information. That is where employees are looking for information. And increasingly, people want to hear directly from the executives and the leaders of a company versus just like a faceless press statement said by a spokesperson. I think it really helps deliver credibility to that brand and ultimately foster trust. So it's actually something that we do for clients. And then on our own, of course, we have to eat our own dog food. We're really huge proponents of building the personal brands of our executives as well. I think it wasn't as strategic as you might think it is, of just how I started posting on my handles, but almost like a necessity, because it's such a great way to share out things to clients into my network of like, hey, just right before this, we did a webinar on reposts on Instagram, which is a new feature. And I saw the team had a really great deck. I'm like, let's share this. It's hosted by me and by our head of platforms, algorithms, and culture. So we love to like add our human perspective. And what I see is when we post things like that, clients and new clients are like, hey, I'd love to chat to you all about X, Y, and Z. And they know what we're about. We are not a secret. It is not mysterious. Like, we want people to know our leadership team, what we believe in, the work that we're doing, because we think we're on the right side of history for that. So it has been really effective. I mean, every day I get messages from different brand people saying, hey, can we set up a call? And can you tell my team what VaynerMedia is up to? So I think it's partially like a necessity for business, partially a manifestation of what we really believe. And as we see it working, we continue to evolve, like what those communications look like. Does it always have to be formal? Sometimes is it a PDF and a white paper? Sometimes is it casual? Like, what is that balance of content pillars to make sure you're showing your personality, but also you're linking it back to the business?
Beautiful. I love it. And I see the power of it. And also, I am a fan of Sarah as well.
She's
There's
amazing,
so
right?
many
And
women
she
that are
shares
just,
a lot of personal.
they're dominating. And, so, um, it's like unpolished. It's, in Cannes this year, the whole word was authenticity and how to
Mhm.
be authentic and really connect and build that trust with the audience. And so, for the executives that are a little bit nervous about taking that leap, what are your words of advice for them and, being authentic and being professional and having that balance? Or is there a balance?
There definitely is a balance, but that balance is going to vary person to person. Maybe some, like Sarah shares a lot about her family, for example, and she's comfortable with that. A lot of people are not. A lot of executives, Gary doesn't share anything about his family. That's private. But he shares a lot. Like, so it's such a like, where are you on the spectrum? There's no right or wrong. I see execs sharing. You just mentioned, your son's off to London. You can clip this out if you don't want people to know that, but sometimes sharing that like makes you more relatable and human. And sometimes people are like, I'm not comfortable sharing my personal life online. And wherever you fall on that spectrum is perfectly okay. I think start with something you are comfortable with. And my advice would be document versus create. If you're going to be speaking on a panel, if you're going to be doing a podcast or an interview, clip that because you're in an environment that you're already comfortable with. Now you're just sharing it to a new place versus people often are paralyzed with, oh, like I need a script, I need a storyboard, I need all this before I can jump into it. Versus if you start from a place of like, you already did this thing, here's a recording, here's a picture, here's a summary, then you can share it. I think that builds the comfort level. Because it is such a common concern of, I don't want to seem full of myself. I don't want to be bragging, especially from women who, want to be humble, but they, in being humble, are missing an incredible opportunity to demonstrate their credibility.
I could not agree more. Of course, Women of Inspiration Awards, we celebrate the achievements of women who lead, inspire, motivate. And that is actually one of the hardest things for most of the women to get over is the fact that they're in the spotlight. And it's just a reframe on if you're not in the spotlight, you can't help others rise versus it being about ego. It's about it's about your duty as a leader to really share your journey and invite more to the table to be able to do the same. So, you know, on that same vein, while we're talking about it, is stepping into that spotlight. So, any words of advice how you can help support or encourage those women to step into the spotlight?
I would step into a spotlight that you're already familiar with and comfortable with. And that might be something like singing at your church chorus, or that might be, organizing something with your friends or like your coworkers on a specific topic where you're very knowledgeable. So I think when you're stepping into that spotlight, it can be as big or as small as you want. Sometimes starting small and working your way up to something big is a good strategy that works for many people. Um, I think that's would be my advice is start with the spotlight you're comfortable in and then grow it.
Perfect. And so, just to wrap up here, that bit of piece, I think it's so, so gold is, we're in the era where the perfectly polished is not earning that trust anymore. And so,
Yeah.
do you think we're coming to the end of that era of perfect and polished?
I think that the perfect and polished era exists in some ways. Like, let's say you're still on like daytime TV. Yes, that might exist there. I think what works today with consumers to drive trust and relatability is that sort of casual delivery where people feel like you're not overly prepped, that you're maybe it's like direct to camera, you're doing a little of this and hey everyone. That's what works now. And we see this because we compare results on various types of ads, that things that look very organic in social media look sort of native, perform way better. But also what, works on more polished mediums like full scale production shoots, like that still does need to be polished. So I think it's just how are you comfortable as an individual? Do you need to be really prepped? Because however you're comfortable is how you're going to show up best. If you need to be prepped and you need to be perfect, like you look perfect in your background, like great, that makes you feel good. If I can just be here, like sitting in my lobby because we're actually wallpapering something today, then that's great too. It's like where you feel comfortable is where you're going to have your best delivery and you're going to thrive. So I always try to advise people to like, there's no one size fits all scenario for everyone.
Beautiful. And by the way, I've kind of revamped this 3 or 4 times. And so it's never the same, but I get what you're dropping. And I think that's really important that everybody's got to feel what they're most comfortable with and just roll with it. And I think that before we pressed go, I said, we're just going to go through this. If my dog decides that the ball's going to roll at my feet, and we're maybe going to lose some lighting, we're going to still go for it, right? So, super exciting. I'm really glad that I had this opportunity to chat with you today. I would love to be able to, this is the Woman of Inspiration podcast. And so, there's a couple signature questions that I would love to know from
Please.
you is why is it so important that we celebrate the achievements of women?
We're more than half the population and way less than half of the conversation. I think celebrating the achievements of women helps normalize that in a world where women are still making pennies on the dollar versus our male counterparts in so many industries. And this is proven in so many different studies. There is still a wage gap when it comes to gender equity and pay. So this is something that we need to continue being really loud about. And people like you, Monica, are critical because you are adding that mouthpiece and that amplification to the great work that is happening in women in business, women in advertising, women in various technology fields. So I think it's absolutely critical. And it's something that I love to spend a lot of time on because even though we've come so far, we truly have so far to come and we're nowhere near there yet.
Beautiful. I couldn't agree more. And, to wrap up, rapid fire questions in one word, how would you describe Gary, working with Gary in one word?
One
Or
word is
two, you pick.
let's see. Possibilities, because Gary sees a world of possibilities and it makes you see the same thing.
Beautiful. And one app that you absolutely cannot live without.
Gonna say LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn.
And I'm going to end with your definition of a woman of inspiration.
A woman of inspiration is someone who is in her power and inspire. No, I won't use the word inspiration. A woman of inspiration is someone who is in her power and empowers and enables others to do the same by highlighting their successes, by sharing that spotlight with a broader group. I hear a lot of people saying women need to be empowered, but really we need to be in power. And when you're in power, you're not holding that to yourself, but you're scaling it and sharing that spotlight with a broader group. And to me, that's really what makes a woman of inspiration.
Beautifully said to wrap up an amazing podcast. Thank you so much, Avery. I look forward to continuing the conversation. And to those that are listening, when you hear this podcast, please share it widely. And Avery, how can people find out a little bit more about what you're doing and kind of, get to know you on a personal level as well with Vayner Media?
Yeah, follow along our journey. We're on all the social channels. I'm Avery Akkineni. We also have at VaynerMedia at VaynerX. So, Monica, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for this opportunity. This was such a fun podcast. And thank you, Women of Inspiration listeners, for taking your precious time to listen to this.
Thank you so much. And Women of Inspiration don't wait for opportunities. We create them, which is exactly what you are doing in your industry. So thank you so much, Avery.
Thanks, Monica.